journey to a greater future. Aspire, never retire, but refire. Join us as the Blueprints presents Emergence 1.1.
Are you an aspiring leader? Do you want to make a difference in this generation? Do you want to know the different values you need to put in place for you to achieve a greater height? Then you are in the right place. I want to welcome you to Emergence 1.1, put together by the Blueprint Edge. Today, we're going to be having a series of discussions to put you in the right lane for you to achieve what you are meant to be in life. Before we go for the recitation of the national anthem, I want us to have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the lives of everybody represented here. Thank you because so many were called, but few of us were chosen. Father, I pray that you bless them immensely. Lord, as we go into today's discussion and every segment of today's program, that you will go with us in the name of Jesus. Every life that is under the sound of my voice will be blessed in the name of Jesus. I will come back after everything to give glory to your name. Thank you, faithful Father. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen. Moving on, to celebrate the 61st independence anniversary of our great nation Nigeria, we're going to be having the national anthem in spoken words. This is going to be from our own Miss Damilola Adedeji. Over to you, Damilola.
A land flowing with milk and honey. Our leaders have bled us dry, this is not funny. Roads filled with potholes, streets about with electric poles but no light. This is our plight. Few are taking flight, the majority are in their strides. With people renowned for being industrious, yet poverty abounds in great proportions. A few live in luxury, the majority wallow in misery. A tale of disparaging ends, difficult indeed to comprehend. Lack in the midst of plenty. Hunger is the swan song of many. Arise, the sleeping giant. Take your rightful place. Remember, you are not an ant. The world awaits the manifestation of your glory. Arise, Nigeria, arise. Arise, all compatriots. For the call to serve Nigeria, we must obey. We will do this with love and strength and faith. So when our heroes past look down on us, they shall know that their labor was not in vain. We'll serve with our heart, our might, and our eyes fixed on the goal. And this nation will be bound in freedom, peace, and unity. We call on the God of creation to direct our noble course, to be a light that directs our leaders, to show our youth the ultimate truth that Yahoo is never an option, but live in love and honesty. Only then can we attain lofty heights and build a nation where peace and justice reign. And I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. Amen.
Hello, you're welcome once again to Emergence 1.1. Okay, so moving on, we'll be inviting the convener of this great vision to give us his introductory speech. He will be telling us what the Emergence is all about, the vision behind it, and the theme Great Future. So please, with a round of applause, let's celebrate Mr. Oyebola Oyetunde Isaiah.
The convener of the outfit, the Blueprint Edge, Oyetunde Oyebola Isaiah. He is passionate in coaching teens and 20s and also has a mandate to raise young, proactive leaders. He will be taking the opening speech in Nigeria to celebrate you, sir.
Good day, everyone. It's my pleasure to be on this very platform, and I would like to welcome everyone to this great program marking the 61st independent anniversary of our great nation, Nigeria, tagged Emergence 1.1, and the theme is the greater future. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Nigeria from the ages. There was a craving for solace, peace, and comfort, as began with our forefathers. In their conceptual reasoning, they were able to work out independence from slavery, to have control of what belonged to us as a people, in unity without any ethnic and tribal influence. Along the line, the fathers of that age discovered treasures beyond imagination that could last and sustain, possibly all of Africa, the black race, and if well managed, lead the world economy. We will not forget to say that Nigeria is a blessed nation, a people loved by God and favored by Him. So much that we are not just blessed in resources, but evidentially with brilliant intellectuals. I will say that God has given us individually and nation everything that pertains to life and godliness. Resources can only be managed maximally with good intellect, having in mind that resources draw population, growth, and consumption vis-a-vis intrusion via migration, either legal or not. There is, therefore, an urgent need for the following. 1. Good ends that are knowledgeable about the importance of the various resources to our livelihood. 2. Good ends that have a deep understanding of times and seasons in view of the available resources. In other words, the nation needs good managers of human and natural resources and life itself. There is need for leaders. May I state that everything about the economy and the experiences recorded till date is a direct result of the status and profile of the kind of leadership and management we've gotten so far. Please note very well, when there are good leaders, challenges rising from human wants are drastically reduced through good management. But when the wrong people get hold of authority, challenges are compounded, resulting into problems. Because they are either ignoramus about viable solution or deliberate sabotage for pecuniary reasons. Then the problem increased. Craving for solace, peace, and comfort. Craving for good leadership to help manage the available resources per person, per location, per time. Here is the multiplier effect. As long as the wrong people usurp the leadership of a particular place, the impact will most likely last forever. Every young mind wakes up and grows to meet the wrong attitude of rulership put in place, directly or indirectly. Then we say, perversion takes the place of the norm. Note this, a wrong person or system cannot produce the right people, not to talk of successors. And as knowledge increases, the wrong people create a path that will make it seem to the masses that there is no other way to livelihood than the survival of the fittest, also known as selfishness and self-centeredness. If you want to destroy a particular race of people, introduce selfishness into their system, they may never recover from it. This menace has continued till this age. It is not funny that the right people that raise their heads to right the wrongs are oftentimes seemingly in the minority and are seriously dealt with and laid aside. Our problems seem to be increasing, starting from the craving for solace, peace, and comfort, going through the craving for good leadership to help manage the available resources per person, per location, per time. In addition, craving for a good and friendly system. These also become the order of the day in every sector of life, businesses, organizations, and so on. Every citizen of the nation that has the might to run out of the country in search of solace, so-called greener pastures, never hesitated. Because the system is poor, it encourages the act of praise and singing and hero worshiping given to those that have foreign connection. Then the complex syndrome arises, which will surely lead to bitterness, strife, and hatred of those that are promised to come together in peace and harmony. Now, it is not new or strange to know that every problem has a solution per time. It is not new or strange that many great nations have experienced similar turbulence and a generation arose to put an end to the menace, because it was obvious that it continues to lead the people into oblivion. Two mechanisms were deployed to eradicate poor leadership. One, the right people. People with a positive mindset. People with a mind of possibility. People that believes that it can work out. Two, the right system. The system of equity. The system that counts on the rights of every citizenry. Therefore, join me to welcome the emergence of a greater future. The future of a country or nation is the rising generation, the set of young ones that are aware of the status of the nation and are ready to move the nation from being underdeveloped to a developed and a world-class nation. The world is waiting to see the best of Nigeria. There is a great expectation from even our unborn generation. There is every reason for Nigeria to rise, never to fall again, with the emergence of God's own leader. Leaders with the fear of God. Leaders with zero tolerance for perversion, sentiments, and nepotism. Leaders that are ever sought for. Leaders with perfect control per person. Leaders that are selfless, patriotic, and proactive. Arise, O Nigeria. Arise, the seed of our loins, as we emerge together as a world best nation. We can and we will emerge.
Bless the name of the Lord. Thank you very much, Engineer Isaiah Oyetunde, the convener of the Blueprint Edge. You will agree with me that that is a clarion call for each and every one of you seated here to pick up the challenge and emerge as the great leader to make the difference in this country of ours. So, right now, we're going to be going on a break to introduce to you what we do at the Blueprint Edge. Sit back and don't touch the dial. Be right back. See you.
In a tunnel of an endless darkness, we keep moving only with the light of our imagination. We will not stumble nor bubble. We are humble till we get double honor. Join us as the Blueprint Urge present Emergence 1.1. The Blueprint Edge is an outfit, it is an indigenous initiative, it is a vision and a mandate to bring leadership to the grassroots, espousing the younger ones to true leadership and patriotism, reconstructing the dilapidated walls, rehabilitating the broken and tampered tender hearts amongst the younger generation, restoring the glory and honor of the nation, restoring the pride and dignity of the citizenry. At the Blueprint Edge, we have passionate and dedicated citizens within and abroad who are set for the task. Our core focus to instill the fear of God in the younger generation, to produce the ideal leaders of the next decade. Exemplary and sought after leaders, leaders with zero tolerance to perversion, corruption, nepotism, tribalism, and selfishness, leaders with the right values. Welcome to our world. You can contact us at theblueprintng@gmail.com or on Facebook, The Blueprint Edge, Instagram, The Blueprint Edge, and also our YouTube channel, The Blueprint Edge. God bless you.
You're welcome back from the break. Now you know what we do at the Blueprint Edge. So, moving on, we're going to be having a talk on positioning for greater future. This is going to be delivered by Mr. Adeniyi Kunu. You're welcome on board, sir.
He is a media professional, a researcher, a teacher, an analyst, and unrepentant believer in the Nigerian project. He is a graduate of the Lagos State University and University of Lagos, respectively. He has been within the media space for 2 decades, in the course of which he has written reviews in newspapers, a couple of academic papers, as well as appeared on scores of radio and television programs. He believes the nation's future belongs to youth who are forward-thinking and hardworking, who do not think the social media is the only space for change, but that they just also be physically part of the positive change process. He is a believer who owes everything he is to his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He will be taking on positioning for the greater future. We'll make welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Adeniyi T. Kunu, a media professional, researcher, and analyst. We celebrate you, sir.
Hello, everybody. I feel really delighted to be part of the Emergence. And I want to say a big thank you to the organizers for giving me the privilege to be able to speak with people, especially young minds that obviously the future belongs to. When we're talking about positioning for a great future, there are lots of things that are infused into this particular line of thoughts or line of direction. Positioning, if I were to do a dissection of each of the words, for a greater future, it means that for one to actually get to the future, there are certain things that one must consider. First, you position right. In the word's position itself, it means you have to do quite a number of things to put it together. Now, positioning is one, for a future is another. But in the context of our relationship or discussion today, we're talking about positioning for a greater future. You know, when we talk about the word, the comparative, and the superlative. By implication, it also means that when you position yourself not just for something that is great, but that is greater. Don't forget that we'll talk about greatest, but because it is believed when one is still ascending the lines of greatness, it is most appropriate to say yes, positioning for greater future is something very significant. Now, let's get it very straight. Every one of us on the face of the earth has things that are unique to us. And it can be better said that if we're able to harness these potentialities that we have, then we gradually position for a greater future. Some of us have different abilities in sports, singing. Some of us are just good with our hands when it comes to creative things that have to do with our hands. While some of us are great thinkers and we do that silently, and we only just do things one way or the other quietly until the entire world realizes that indeed this person has been working at the background. So when we talk about positioning for a greater future, we're talking about how much you're able to harness your skills or your potential by honing those skills or getting proper education and endeavoring to be the best in that which you've chosen to do. So I'm going to take it from one. How much do you know about yourself is something very significant in this conversation. When we talk about knowing ourselves, many people live their lives daily by not taking a pause one way or the other. And as young minds and as people who are still, learning, still in school, learning a trade, or actually some form of vocation or the other, it is very key that you first of all know who you are. Do not forget that apart from the different kinds of character traits that we have, which would make some of you very quiet, you call those people, those who perhaps you love to talk little, then you love those that really love to talk a lot in terms of being chatty. Then you also talk about people who perhaps are always on the move with a lot of adrenaline pumping in their body. Oftentimes we talk about them when we describe them as those who are melancholic, choleric, those who are sanguineous, and the rest of it all. But it's been said, of course, by people who understand character traits that one person doesn't have a totality of a particular kind of character trait, that is always a fusion of one which is major and one which is minor. So you could say that you are melancholy and you are a little bit choleric. You could say that you are sanguine and a little bit melancholic. So it's always a mix of the different character traits on the one hand. But I don't want to go very scholarly because it's important for us to understand the basis of what we're talking about. So the first thing that we talk about when we are referring to positioning for a greater future, as I said at the beginning of this part, is to know yourself. How much do you know about yourself? How much do you understand about your preferences? How much do you understand your emotions? How much do you understand the people around you? Because the greater relationships that we have in life is always a function of, do I know myself enough to align with the right kind of people? For instance, if you just realize that you love to sing, and anytime you sing, you realize that it takes you to another realm, another level. You have to first of all begin to position yourself rightly. Maybe, for instance, you belong to a school or a particular social cultural organization, and there are rooms for you to perhaps maybe they're calling on people to, okay, let's put some songs together and the rest of it all. What were you able to do with that which you usually find easiest to do? Oftentimes we talk about passion. At another time we talk about something that you find easy to do. It is one and same motivation. For instance, when I was in secondary school, I remember they were talking about, I think, the first man that died from the HIV virus, talking about somebody who contracted, AIDS. His name, I remember very, very well, should be Felilu Taya. And I remember back then where preparing for our WAEC and some people, West African examination, WASC properly said, and they came to school back then and asked, can anybody just put a song together so that we can actually talk about create awareness? And I chose to do that. And do you know that I went on Friday, I came back on Monday, I did that. Now, that was the first indication for me that I love to put words to paper. Even if I have not gone ahead to become a great musician, I know I could do some composition from that particular challenge that I took up. So, if you love music, for instance, also understand that some people love to sing, some people love to compose, some people like to put words together. That is one part. Then you have to understand that if you must position along the line of honing that skill or that talent that God has given you, you have to start looking for those that share the same interests and look for areas where you could put your abilities to best use. That is one part of the conversation. If you love to play football, for instance, or basketball, that's the kind of outdoor sport that people love to do. The question there you'd have to ask, especially football in this as how much of that do I do? For instance, if you say you can play football, how often do you get on your feet to do that, which you know that God has given you the ability to do? So positioning is possible from understanding those things that we have in us as a people that God has created with those abilities. That is one. Then, secondly, it is also to put oneself close to those that can help on it. I played football for many years as I'm speaking here. And at times when I have the opportunity, I still go out, work, and all of that have really prevented me from giving much time to it. But because it's something I have passion for, I still have my playing boot. So I ask you, if you know that God has given you that talent for football, what do you do with it? Do you just sit by and say, well, I'm not going to use it? Now, the motivation should not be that I want to make big money first. It is about developing yourself because even the best of footballers still have coaches. That's a fact of the matter. Then some of us feel that we do not have such skills as perhaps playing football, maybe basketball or singing. There are some people who just love to serve people. You like to be very hospitable. At times they call you the mother hen. At times they just feel that there's a way you organize and everything goes smoothly. That is your kind of talent. That's what God has given you. So what do you do with that which God has given you? It is that you learn more. How do you organize things? How do you put things in order? These are very, very important aspects of what we must learn as a people when we're talking about knowing ourselves and the things that God has given to us. Then there are some people that just love to observe. They are very keen listeners, and it is in their listening that they're able to identify challenges and prefer solutions. You could be that kind of person as well. How much of that have you been able to do? Some people are naturally reticent. They talk less, not because they don't know what to say, but naturally they are not so much of words. And there are some people, you know them by the fact that they talk a lot. Those people love to take charge, not that they love to control people, as people usually talk about. They love to take charge because it is their nature to do that things get done. So while others at times are not taking the front seat, some of them are able to even sacrifice their positions and heads just to make things work. So these are various areas where you have to look at, and many more. I'm just actually picking this ones so that at least you can understand that, well, nobody is born without something to offer his or her world. And that is why I'm talking to you young ones today that it is what you can do. You have the capacity to do it. You have the wherewithal to do it, but you have to understand yourself. Then at the same time, that is about your skills. What about your emotions now? There are some people, when you talk to them or correct them about something, they feel bad, they feel remorseful, and feel they want to stay away from you. There are some people, when you talk to them about something, they just take it quickly and they see what they can do and make changes. And you should know that the best kind of emotion, such that you're able to manage yourself, especially when you need to grow up or when you need to develop, is you should be able to accommodate or create room for correction and criticism because it is part of your developmental process. Don't forget, I started by talking about the kind of talents you have, knowing yourself, and also understanding your emotions. Some people that really are very chatty may fall into the error of saying things they shouldn't say. And some people that don't talk as much as those who are very chatty could keep quiet, and because of their silence, something that is negative could be left to go unattended to, and it affects every other person. So, for every one of us, with our limitations and strengths come certain levels of challenges, and it is in identifying these challenges that we're able to have a headway by creating further solutions. That is also another part of this conversation. Now, let us move away from talking about talents, talking about skills, and talking about maybe emotions to now talk about the aspects of academics. I know that many of you who are watching, many of you really are in schools, and some of you want to get into higher schools of learning, maybe universities and polytechnics. You should understand that it's a crucial stage of your lives. And because it's a crucial stage of your lives, how much have you positioned in that regard? Don't forget, you cannot position rightly if, for instance, you find yourself in a direction with the kind of skill you have, but you don't appear to move with those that can help develop those skills that God has given to you. Then another thing will be your choice of career. Many of you are in secondary school. Some of you may already be in your first year at the universities or second year. But what is very fundamental is to first of all understand that apart from your skills that you have, well, I talked about sports, I talked about ability to organize, I talked about being able to sing, I talked about being able to listen, I also talked about those who are able to lead in terms of taking charge. What's the area of interest that you have found yourself usually moving in the direction of? Because that's another important thing. Now, let's say this for the records. I like to use myself as instance. Long before I got into the university, I'd wanted to do law. Eventually, I find myself studying English and literature, even if I've done a number of trainings in journalism as well over the years. One thing that kept moving me in this direction was the use of words. I found myself at some point, my early 20s trying to put a dictionary together. I was reading the dictionary and trying to create words. You find out that it's only natural for me to move in that direction so that at least I can better develop my capacities at higher institutions of learning and get to do something better with what I find myself leaning towards. So let's talk about this. Some of you are there listening and you feel my mathematics is good, my physics is good, my chemistry is not so good, my further math is brilliant, my English is above average, my English as well is something that I can use to communicate in writing and of course in speaking. And when it's time for you to make a decision about your course of study, you choose medicine, or you choose biochemistry, or you choose microbiology. I know that there's a natural tilt for you. You work with less stress when you are dealing with calculations or when you're dealing with numbers or cracking figures than when you're dealing with all the pipettes and the burettes and the rest of it all. Why then can't you just sit back and tell yourself the truth? Perhaps you could do better studying mathematics, computer engineering. You could do better studying mechanical engineering. You could do better, perhaps maybe with architecture, maybe with actual science or statistics, because those are where you crunch the numbers. Some of you really have found out that when it comes to your calculation, it's a huge challenge. And because it's a huge challenge, you just struggle all the way and say, let my people go up until I get the scores. But you know that anytime you sit with chemistry, with biology, you just do it with relative ease. Anytime you deal with anything health science, it's relative ease. And you've decided that you want to go for mechanical engineering. What happens to chemical engineering? What happens to microbiology? What happens to medicine and surgery? What happens to pharmacy? You should understand that for God, who has created every one of us, He has given us quite a number of opportunities to make decisions. And that is why immediately you get into secondary school, I'm telling you this, although many of you are above the junior classes now, you have to start looking in the direction of your areas of strength. And this information that I'm sharing with you can also help you speak with those who are younger, those perhaps that you'd have opportunity to mentor. It is also important. So I've talked about the sciences. Now let's look at things like accounting. Look at things like, for instance, actuarial science. Look at things like sociology. Let's look at things like English and literature. Of course, look at journalism, maybe mass communication, or maybe you want to talk about some other courses, or maybe law as well. You should understand that the primary ingredients of some courses in the humanities will be your love for reading of literature, your love for the knowledge of government and history, and of course, your love for English language, the language of communication. I keep telling people that choosing to become a lawyer, a mass communicator, a journalist, an English and literary studies student and the rest of it all takes a whole lot. Some people think, well, just let's go there. It is easy. It is when you come into that area that you find out that it is not piecemeal. It therefore means that if you find yourself reading often, writing often, novels, putting poems together, writing short stories, there's something calling you when you're talking about maybe English and literature, something calling you to the Department of French and Portuguese, something calling you basically into the humanities. But if you find yourself leaning in the direction of perhaps politics, government, history, social issues, then perhaps the legal profession is calling you and you indeed want to move in that direction. I'm saying this because many people position themselves wrongly, and because they don't position themselves rightly, their future is great and not greater than expected. And one of the things we should know, we are created in life to make impact. Inability to make impact is always a function of the choices we make. For instance, the vocation we choose or the course we study. I have seen quite a number of people who studied something different. I said somebody studied something related to genetics that I know, a friend of mine at the University of Port Harcourt, but the person had always wanted, the broadcast industry, and the person eventually had to finish the degree and give the degree to the person and said, "Yes, I fulfilled this because you're my parents, but I have another thing that my passion is for." Some of you, inside of you, know the passion you have, know the things that drive you. But some of you just feel, well, let me choose this course because of my parents. It is always important to find a way, even if your parents may kill you, which I know they won't, to speak with your parents and try to let them understand how much you want to do with that which you have passion for. I know another person who studied medicine, struggled for 100 level, 200 level, eventually 300 level, chose mass communication and graduated best at the Bio University in Kano. I know that person again. What am I saying here? It is better that you follow your passion and that conviction about the things you want to do than choosing a path where you eventually deviate from. It is best you start early and garner the experience and training you need rather than lose the many years that you should make impact in your life. Time, they say, waits for no man, and oftentimes some of us go farther off from where we should be and eventually end up where we shouldn't be. And many people who go the way they shouldn't have gone usually find regrets there. There are some people that just love international languages. You could listen to people speak French, German, Portuguese, Chinese, and the rest of it all. And there's something about your heart that moves in that direction, that how you wish you could understand what people say in other languages. That's something calling you. That's something telling you that is where you belong. It is very, very key to understand that. Some of you, anytime they post figures in accounting, they post figures, you just find yourself and your mind going in the direction. Let's say this, it is important we listen to that inner man, apart from the things that are evident before us, perhaps maybe when we are taught or maybe when we are learning. I'm saying this day that it is very fundamental to the success of everybody's life to go in a direction where one can actually realize one's dreams. In this age and time of technology, some people, even before they got into the university, are able to hold electronic gadgets and understand it with relative ease. And let me tell you this, because we live in a world where knowledge from high institutions are very important. No matter how much you know, it is always important that you do certain courses at our universities. And for those of you who have the privilege of traveling outside the country to do it, all well and good. But what is very, very important is that you take steps that will move you closer to that which is your passion, to that which you find relatively easy to do. Let me tell you, don't allow anybody talking you into thinking that you have to be able to overlook and leave your comfort zones. That is not how to define comfort zones. Comfort zones means refusing to take up new challenges. Comfort zone doesn't mean following your passion or something you find relatively easy to do. That is not comfort zone. So, especially for those of you who are just beginning your lives, comfort zones for you doesn't mean just staying back. Comfort zones for you means when you have done something in your profession, You should be able to create new grounds, break new grounds. For instance, if you understood how the 4G network works, and people are telling you you need to understand how 5G network works, and you are refusing to move, that means you don't want to leave your comfort zones. It means that you have to try and gain new knowledge, new perspectives about the areas of your chosen career or in other areas where you can expand knowledge. It is very, very key. Now, when we talk about positioning for greater future, I started by talking about honing your skills, your talent. I've talked about understanding your emotions. I've talked about the choice you make while going to the universities. I've also mentioned to you that some of you are tech savvy. You just understand gadgets and the rest of it. But there are some other people who do not understand even the country they live in. So let us deal with all the things that make us position for a greater future. Don't forget that the title of this conference, particularly or this symposium, is called Emergence. You are emerging, and when you're talking about something that is emergent, it means you're breaking the shells, you are coming out, you're unfolding to the future that is very well yours to take. So, the picture that I'm creating here in this conversation right now is that you should also understand your environment. If you do not understand the people around you, you don't understand the society where you find yourself, then it's going to be failure. Many of you understand a lot about yourselves. You understand where you want to go in terms of your area of career and the rest of it all, but many of you do not even want to know anything about your country. How much do you know about Nigeria or the country where you're watching from? How much do you know about the people around you? How much do you know about even the people of your ethnic leaning or tribe? If you don't understand your own value system, you don't understand your people, you don't understand things that surround you, every other thing is complete failure, because the knowledge or skills we have will be used to create value for our people. And when you don't even understand the mindsets, the ideas, and the identities of the people that you're together with in your locality, in your state, in your local government, or even your country, before we talk about the global society, then it's a failure. English language is not the language of Nigerians. English language is the language of the colonial masters that they gave to us. But of course, they've succeeded in making it the language of education and the language of politics. How well can you even understand or even speak your own language as a people? So, everything that I've talked about may come to complete failure if you don't even understand where you're coming from, because that is also the challenge that we have with a lot of millennials. You should understand that know yourself, bearing your name with pride, holding your head high as Nigerian is very key. And distinguishing yourself is also very fundamental in this conversation moving forward. So I just want to say that for you to emerge and position greatly, you need to put all the ingredients that I've talked about together, put it to best use. Don't forget, I talked about knowing what your skills or talents are, understanding your emotions. I also talked about, the fact that you need to know the people that you're with. You need to understand the careers that you must choose. Don't forget your skills. I talked about it. I talked about that because it's cool. It's important you know your skills. Emotions. How much of emotional understanding do you have? Emotional quotient is very important. How much of that do you have? What are the choices you're making in your course of study at the university? And how much do you know about yourself, about your ethnic group, about Nigeria? These are very key ingredients. And as you do this, you definitely are positioning for a greater future. But importantly, also, is the God factor. I'm a believer in God. I've given my life to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I always say that without God, we are nothing. I will not be here speaking with you today without God. So I want to tell you, for those of you who are Christians, for those of you who are Muslims, no matter what your religious affiliation is, you cannot take away God from the factor of success. God is the one that can help everybody position rightly, make the best of choices, but your hard work is also very important. And I know that as you do this, you definitely succeed. I want to urge everybody to emerge. My name is Adeni Itawukunu. I want to say thank you for the organizers of the symposium. I want to say a big thank you for finding me or giving me the opportunity to add value to the lives of this ones. And I pray that everybody will succeed in the long run. God bless Nigeria, and bye for now.
Your welcome back is still Emergence 1.1. Okay, shortly we'll be going into the discussion segments. Okay, we've got great men in the house to help us answer those questions about having a great future. But before we do, we need to check out the profile of this great man. The discussion segment is a segment you just don't want to miss. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. But before we go, here is the clip on the profile of our panelists. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the discussion section for Emergence 1.1. Our topic, pragmatic direction setting, identifying values that can deliver the greater future and how to develop those values. We have the following discussants for Emergence 1.1. Kola Olufemi Ajayi, the president of the Blueprint Edge, a life coach and passionate mentor of the teens and youth with the heartbeat of a new nation. We have Daniel N. Nkita. He's a Nigerian Norwegian. He has been on several platforms to include TES Nigeria and always share his vision of a new great nation. We are building leadership from the grassroots. We have Mayowa Michael Salami, a sought-after leader with a willing spirit to train younger ones to becoming invaluable. We have Mr. Abidemi Akinshepe, a Nigerian based in Canada. He is a data analyst by profession and finds fulfillment in talking with the youth, sharing experiences and providing encouragement. He has been on several Nigerian platforms, talking on several topics to improve leadership.
Hello, you're welcome to the discussion segment. So, in this segment, we'll be asking our panelists some few questions, and I believe they'll be answering powerfully. Okay, so let's just dive into it. The first question, I'll be asking Mr. Abidemi this particular question. You know, as a child, we are always dreaming of a great future. Even adults, name it, all through life, we're always desiring that great future. If you don't mind, sir, what can you define as a great future? We've got so many definitions around. Some believe you have money is great future, you have health. In your own words, sir, what do you define as a great future? Thank you.
Define a great future. A great future is one in which you have discovered your potentials, you have discovered your calling, and you are maximizing your potentials to fulfill that calling. And not just to fulfill that calling, but also to make impacts to yourself, to your environment, and everyone around you. That's what I would define as a great future. Thank you.
What's great future it's all about. Thank you, Mr. Abidemi, for that great answer. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Question number 2 is for you, Mr. Dan. The theme of this great program is pragmatic direction setting, identifying the values that delivers the great future and how to develop them. Okay, so what really is value? As in, what does value entails? Can you help us shed more light to what value is all about, Mr. Dan? Thank you.
What does value mean and what does it entail? Value is a set of principles, a set of standards, a set of frameworks that guides the behavior of a person. It could be a person, a group of people, a family, an organization, or a nation. What does it entail? It entails quite a lot of things. What you put your belief in, a set of belief, how you do things, how you talk, how you greet, what you regard. So these are standards you've set for yourself. And when these values become part and parcel of a person, then it translates into what we call culture. So the value system of a group of people basically defines the culture of the people. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Dan, for that answer. Mr. Dan, I quickly want to ask you, does right value translate to a great future? Does right value translate to a great future? Please, sir.
Does right values translate to greater future? There are so many things that need to be in place for one to achieve or attain a greater future. But amongst these many components, one of the key components is having the right set of values. Yes, value, a very good value system can help translate into greater future for any people. Thanks.
Oh, brilliant. Let me quickly come to you, Mr. Abedemi. I also want to ask you, does right value translate to a great future? And if yes, what are the values that guarantees a great future, sir?
Does right values translate to a greater future? I would say absolutely yes. I agree. And if it does, what are the values that guarantees a great future? There are quite a number of them. There are lots of them, but I will just mention just a few. First and foremost is regard for God and for fellow humans. Integrity is also one of those values. Honesty, fairness, equity, and to crown it all, having an excellent mindset. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answers, Mr. Bidemi. This fifth question is for you. As a child growing up, what are the threats that I should watch out for in maintaining my values? Saying, what are those things that challenges me in trying to maintain my values? Apostle Paul said something. He says, those things I don't want to do are the things I see myself doing. So as a young chap trying to maintain good values, what are the threats I should watch out for? What are the threats? Thank you.
The threats to watch out for in maintaining your values. Well, the biggest threat to watch out for when you're trying to maintain your values are the people around you. If you choose to uphold your values, definitely there will be some people that do not agree with such values. So those are the biggest threats that you need to watch out for. Some will even go to the extent of trying to sideline you or even working together to ensure they frustrate you, to kick you out of the system or to kick you out of a setup so that you lose opportunities just because you are holding on to your set of values. So those are the biggest, that's the biggest threat I would say stands in the way of you upholding your values. Thank you.
Oh, that was just right on point, Mr. Abidemi. Thank you for that answer. I have experienced so many times when people want me to lie just because I'm the only one standing saying the truth. What people do to you is to ensure that you come down to their level. My advice for you young ones today is that don't go down to their level. Don't stoop so low. My next question goes to you, Mr. Dan Inketa. What are the things that these young ones can use? What can aid them in nurturing their values? Over to you, Mr. Dan.
So, what are some of the things that young ones need to do, or some of the things they need to nurture their very good values? There are quite a number of things. But two things I'll quickly say here. For you to nurture the good values that you already have, first is to position yourself around people with the same value system. If your family, the people in your home, your siblings have good value systems, then you want to stick around them. You want to follow them. If your friends have good value system, you want to stick around them. Essentially, you don't want to be around people with contrasting value system. The second thing you have to do to nurture your good value system, nurturing means growing, developing. So to develop the good value system, you also want to guard what you consume as information. What do you read? What do you listen to? What do you watch? All of this information coming into your system, you want to guard them. You want to be sure you are consuming the right information. Watch the book you read, watch the movies and the shows you watch the music you listen to, and all of this will help nurture your value system. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dan, for that answer. I will like to ask my next question from you, Mr. Bidemi. You will agree with me that we are in the internet dispensation. So, how does social media affect our values today? Over to you, Mr. Bidemi.
To what extent would you say or agree that social media has influenced our values? I would say to a very large extent, because the explosion of social media in the last couple of years has led quite a lot of people into a rush of information, and processing those information gets many off track. Now people get to view things that they shouldn't have had access to view rather, and it has brought in different influences from different people, because a lot of people spend time. Remember, I mentioned information that you consume in the last point that I made. People have now been spending more time consuming the wrong set of information. And of course, this goes a long way into the mindset, and it affects the way we think and the way we act. So indeed, social media has come a long way. It has a great influence on affecting our values. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're picking one or two things from all these question and answers. Okay, so moving on to the question 8. This is for you, Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan, let me share a story before I put out the question. I was in a salon one day, and then I saw a boy, very small boy, and he was cursing his friend, like big cussle, not small one, as in big ones. I can't even open my mouth to say them. And I was surprised and at the same time angry. I don't know if there's an English word for both, when you are angry and at the same time you are surprised how these big words, big curses can be coming out of a small boy. And the people around me were trying to justify the boy's action by trying to share with me the kind of environment the boy came out from, the kind of father, the kind of mother, the grandmother, and the rest. Now the question I'm trying to ask, going by this story, as a child who desire a great future, as a teen who desire a great future, but living in an environment with bad values, what practical steps can you do to maintain good values? What practical steps can you take to maintain good values? Like in the case of that boy, what can he do to come out well, with good values in that kind of chaotic environment? Thank you.
As a young person desiring a great future, desiring to nurture good values, but living in not so good environment, an environment with bad values? What are some of the practical steps to start developing the right values? Like I said earlier, the people in your network, the people around you, and the information you absorb. Try to be around people that will help you grow. If your parents, your siblings have or live by good value systems, align with them. If they're not, there are other options. Try to get yourself some very good mentors. And that's why we have this platform, really, to mentor some of you. Get yourself a good mentor. And then consciously guide yourself. Consciously select your friends. Conscious about the books you read, what you watch online, what you watch on the TV, music that you're listening to, and all of these are basically practical steps. When you start doing all of these little by little, year after year, then it becomes your culture. And that becomes your value system that you're living by. So these are practical steps I think you can do. Choose the right mentor. Stay around people with like value that you really want to develop. And make sure you consume the right information. Thank you.
Our panelists have said so much today, so much. A lot have been said, okay? But before we round up this session, we've got 2 questions to go. And this is for you, Mr. Bidemi. If you agree with me, Nigeria is blessed. African is, we are blessed. But we've got one issue, we've got one challenge, and that is leadership, the challenges of leadership, As a child, this is the question. As a child, aiming to be leader of tomorrow. We sing it now while growing up. Parents, listen to your children. We are the leaders of tomorrow. As a child, as a teen, desiring to be the leader of tomorrow. What values can I develop in the light of leadership and governance? What values can I develop that will help me to be a good leader in the future? Thank you.
Leadership is one of the challenges in this part of the world. As a young one aiming to be a leader tomorrow, what values can we nurture in the light of good leadership and governance? Yeah, I quite agree. Leadership may be a challenge for the now, but it's not an excuse to now jump ship and begin to hold on to wrong values. Like I mentioned in one of the things that will aid your values, integrity, holding on to your integrity, even in the face of bad leadership. And gradually, it will get to a point where bad leadership will fail. And the congregation of those with the right set of values will now overpower the bad leadership. So hold on to your values. Do not lose your integrity. Do not lose your honesty, even if others are losing theirs. It will definitely pay. I always refer to the case of Daniel. Daniel held on even while others were falling. It even got to a point where about 120 governors of the provinces spoke against him. They tried to set him up, but eventually he outshone them because he held on to his values. Thank you.
Wow, that's great, Mr. Abidim. Thank you very much. On to my last question. Let me quickly ask you, Mr. Abidemi, before you go, what are the roles of the various agents of socialization? The family, the media, the religion, the peers, the education, and government. What are the roles that they play in nurturing the right values, and what can be done to sensitize them to play their role more effectively? Over to you, sir, Mr. Abidemi.
What are the roles of the various agents of socialization? That means family, media, religion, peers, education, and government in nurturing the right values and what can be done to sensitize them to play their roles more effectively. Yes, the most basic agent of socialization is the family. If one grows in a family with the right sets of values, such values will be transferred to such a person. We are all products of the families that we grew up in. So, also, we are products of the religious settings, of the schools, of the friends, the influences around us. One thing that can be done to sensitize these agents or agencies, as the case may be, is to render support to them. And this support can come from the government, it can come from those involved in the leadership of our religious circles. We can get to sensitize one another by talking about these things, by upholding such values and condemning values that are not right. Starting from the home front, when parents condemn wrong values, children will know that they should not hold on to such values. The same thing when religious organizations condemn wrong values, people will wake up that no, oh, the society would not accept this. But when we keep quiet, we are aiding these bad values. So there's a need to speak up, there's a need to condemn, there's a need to say, there's a need to speak up when something is going wrong, and let the people that are under such influence of that leadership know that these values are actually wrong. All right. Thank you.
Praise God. Thank you very much, Mr. Bidemi. That was a brilliant one. And before we go, I quickly want to have your opinion, Mr. Dan Nkata, about the role of the different agents of socialization and what role do they play in nurturing the different values that we have mentioned, and also how do we sensitize them so that they can play that role effectively? Mr. Dan, please.
So, what are the roles of family, media, religious organizations, peers, friends, educational institutions in nurturing the right values? And what can be done to sensitize them to be more effective? Everyone's value system is influenced or shaping by their environment. So this agent of socialization, family, media, the religious organizations, your educational institutions, and your friends, all of this influence your value system. So their impact is huge. When you are in the midst of all of these agents and they are all bad, then most likely your value system is going to be bad because you wouldn't know better. So their impact is enormous. While we are trying our best now as a social agent to open your eye to why you need to have good values, we are also going to be reaching out to all of these agents to see if we can hopefully be able to sensitize some of them to be more effective. For instance, we are hoping to set up an outfit to reach out to parents the same way we are reaching out to you. Because the power of parents on the value system of their kids is huge. We are hoping we'll be able to go into the media space for them to look into what they publish, what they present, such that they can start influencing positively on the next generation. So it's a huge task to get all of these agents to perform what they are supposed to perform. But they say it's little drops of water make a big ocean. We need to start somewhere. And that's why we're here. Trying to start from you and then extending it outward into all of the social agents around you. This media, the family, the academic institutions, the religious institutions, and all of that. Thank you.
Oh, there you have it. I believe you have learned something from today's discussion session titled The Pragmatic Direction Setting, Identifying the Values that Can Deliver the Great Future. So, before we close, I want to use this medium to invite the president of the Blueprint Edge in person of Mr. Kola Ajayi for the closing remark. Over to you, sir, Mr. Kola Ajayi.
Hi, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Emergence 1.1. It's been a journey for us, and this is the continuation of the journey, and it's exciting to have you join us for Emergence 1.1. For this Emergence 1.1, we have our team journey to a great future, a greater future. We've seen in the course of history from people that we've seen gone past who have defined great futures for their nations, for themselves, and we've seen those great futures come to pass. We heard of Martin Luther King, who had a dream in the United States of America, and he had all sort of dreams that a black man was going to rule in America, that this was going to happen in America, and that was going to happen in the US. And today we've seen those things come to manifestation. We've seen nations like Singapore come from third world nations, become nations that are desirable, that people are running to, now. So we've seen countries come from the least of status to become the greatest of nations. We've seen industry, we've seen companies, we've seen corporations grow from no position to become first, third, and first position in their sectors. And that is what happens to you when you have a great future in your mind. And that is what we're looking at for our nation. We want a nation that's going to be great in the future, a nation that everybody's going to desire to come to, a nation that will be proud of in the future. And for us to have that, we need to be able to conceptualize that nation, that great future in our minds. So the ability to conceptualize that future in our mind is critical for us to have that great future that we desire. That great future won't come to us, won't drop on our laps because we desire it. It will just come because we want it. It won't just come because we talk about it. It will only come because if we make it come. And the first step in making it come is to set a direction for it to come. And when I talk about direction setting, I'll start to talk about things like vision. You must have a clearly defined vision of what you want to see in that great future. That great future that we're talking about, you must have a clear vision of what it will look like, so that when you see it, you can know that this was what I thought of, what I dreamt of. This was what I conceptualized. And that is critical for us. So the second thing is that what are you going to do to get to that vision that you have defined? And that is your mission. So what are the activities, the actions, the defined actions you're going to take to get to that future, that great future that we're talking about? That must be clearly defined as well. More importantly, you need to also have a set of values that take you from where you want to be to from where you are to where you want to be. Okay, we always say something in management that I know that this was what I thought of, what I dreamt of. This was what I conceptualized. And that is critical for us. So the second thing is that what are you going to do to get to that vision that you have defined? And that is your mission. So what are the activities, the actions, the defined actions you're going to take to get to that future, that great future that we're talking about? That must be clearly defined as well. More importantly, you need to also have a set of values that take you from where you want to be to from where you are to where you want to be. Okay, we always say something in management that culture will always eat strategy for breakfast. And that is a very, 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 very profound statement. And what it means is that if you don't have a set of values that guide your actions, no matter what kind of strategy you have, no matter what kind of vision or mission you have, you're going to fail. Because discipline is critical, and discipline is formed in culture, is formed in values. So you must have a set of values that you have defined that will guide what you do. And that is what keeps you disciplined to achieve whatever it is you have defined for yourself that you want to achieve. So you must have a vision, you must have a mission, you must have a set of values that guide you in all that you do, that guide your actions, things that you will never do, things that you will always do. Values that determine what must not come through you and what you must get through you on a daily basis. Those values are the things that will culminate and become what you have as your culture. Values will become your culture because you practice those values consistently over a period of time. They become your culture, and your culture is what can deliver into your hands the great future that we desire. So I encourage you in the course of this discussion that you deliberately, intentionally define your own vision, define your own mission, define your own values, and build a culture that can deliver the great future that we all desire into our hands. This nation is going to be great, no doubt about it. We're going to be part of that greatness, and there is no doubt about that. But we must be deliberate and intentional in building the cultures that can deliver into our hands the future that we desire. And that is my challenge to you in the course of Emergence 1.1, that you have clearly defined values that will build the culture that can deliver into our hands the Nigeria, the great future that we desire. And I encourage you to please write down as we have this discussion. And God bless you after that. My name is Kolawole Ajayi, and it's been my pleasure to to be the president of the Blueprint, which is bringing to you Emergence 1.1. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I hope I don't sound like the president, but it wouldn't be a bad idea anyway. God bless you real good.
Wow, it's been an insightful moment having you here, the panelists. I want to thank everybody who made this possible, especially you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you to the convener. Thank you for betting this vision. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Emergence 1.1, no doubt, is a success. You've all heard it from our convener, from our panelists. All you need to create that great future. The good values, the one you should develop, the one you should drop. All you need to do, okay? So don't just hear them and pocket them. The Bible says it's not him that heareth alone, but of him that walketh. You need to walk, you need to run with everything that you've heard, okay? Don't just hear it alone, but do something about it. Develop those values, develop those good values, and drop the bad ones, okay? And run away from those threats that might want to affect your good values. Until I see you again, it's Emergence 1.1 this time around. Next time it's going to be Emergence 1.2, I believe. My name is Folaranmi Lydia once again. Thank you. I love you. Mwah. Bye for now. See you.
Oh yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Lydia Folaranmi, and thank you for anchoring this program with me today. To everybody that has come together to make this program a successful one, I want to say a very big thank you to every one of you. Oh dear. We have come to the end of Emergence 1.1 for 2021. I believe that it has been a value for your time. You have been empowered with the right values to go and make a difference in the society. Remember, in the journey to the future, you have to aspire. You should never retire, but you should refire because the world awaits you. Until some other time that we are going to be coming your way with another power-packed program. My name is Theophilus Orogon. Stay blessed and God bless Nigeria. Bye.